Donald Trump is losing his mind like never before. He is doing anything he possibly can to try to distract us, not only from his Jeffrey Epstein scandal, but from the breaking news this morning that inflation has hit its highest point since February because of Donald Trump's tariffs. Everything is crumbling around him, so he is lashing out and trying to shift our focus. And we saw that this morning when Donald Trump made an insane threat, a threat to jail Senator Adam Schiff that is blowing up in his face. We are going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our channel. Now, before we can get into Trump's post, I want to kick it off with what Senator Schiff had to say about Donald Trump's abuse of power that led to this insane post.
Senator Adam Schiff, Democrat of California, is on the Judiciary Committee. As a House member, he was lead impeachment manager in Trump's first impeachment trial. He joins me now. Senator, it was a little unclear when this was first reported if this was true or not. I guess it's subsequently been confirmed. Oh, it's a serious thing to open a criminal investigation. What's your response to this?
Well, sadly, I think we're going to see a lot more of this. We're going to see the leaking of the announcement of criminal investigations against the president's perceived political enemies. Here, the president has always tried to contest the conclusion of the intelligence community back in 2016 that Russia was affirmatively trying to harm the Clinton campaign, and by doing so, help the Trump campaign. He obviously hates that conclusion, but it was a pretty consensus conclusion of the intelligence community. After all, the Russians were hacking Hillary's emails and leaking them. They were pushing out social media content harmful to Hillary Clinton, as well as stuff that was just plain divisive on the issue of immigration, guns, and other things. But he's trying to contest that Russia helped his campaign by hurting Hillary Clinton, and he is also trying to go after his enemies. So I think, as Brennan was alluding, it doesn't really matter whether they're serious about this investigation. All that matters is they can announce it. They can placate the MAGA base by doing so. Now, they may very well go beyond that. We've seen them move to initiate investigations without any evidence, and there's really no telling how far this administration will go.
I should note, of course, that John Brennan is an MSNBC contributor here at the network. I want to ask about another revelation today about sort of the use of the federal government directed at James Comey. This is New York Times reporting today. After the former FBI director put a picture on Instagram of seashells arranged to say 8647, law enforcement tailed his car and tracked his cell phone, steps usually reserved for serious threats. 86 obviously means to get rid of. They made a big to-do about it as if he was calling for the president to be killed, which I think is implausible and somewhat absurd. What do you think about the Secret Service tailing Mr. Comey?
Well, it shows the lengths that they're going to go to, once again, to go after the political enemies of the president. And here, you know, we have this, I think, really nefarious combination of the Justice Department with its weaponization working group to weaponize that department against enemies of the president. We have the FBI under Kash Patel more than willing to use extreme measures that are reported here against James Comey. And with respect to what you asked me about just a moment ago, you have Ratcliffe, the head of the CIA, willing to politicize his office to push out discredited kind of claims as a way of doing the president's bidding. And the problem is we can't now rely on what the leaders of the intelligence community have to say. Tulsi Gabbard's staff was already involved in trying to push the intelligence community to amend its reporting on Nicaragua because it would embarrass the president or interfere with his immigration policy. And if you can't now trust the leaders of the intelligence community, you certainly can't trust Kash Patel at the FBI or the likes of Ed Martin or Pam Bondi at the Justice Department, then how much confidence can Americans have in the rule of law or in our intelligence agency's ability to focus on the job they should have, which is keeping us safe?
I think it is especially important to highlight the way that Donald Trump is using and abusing the DOJ, not only because he ran a presidential campaign almost exclusively on the message that the DOJ was being weaponized against him, but to make the connection between him and Pam Bondi as just an extension of his abuse as clear as possible. MAGA's mad at Pam Bondi. They should be mad at Donald Trump for covering the Epstein list. And it is that Epstein list that has Trump freaking out, trying to distract, and he did so with this post right here. Trump wrote on Truth Social, "I have always suspected shifty Adam Schiff was a scam artist, and now I learned that Fannie Mae's Financial Crimes Division have concluded that Adam Schiff has engaged in a sustained pattern of possible mortgage fraud." Adam Schiff said that his primary residence was in Maryland to get a cheaper mortgage and rip off America when he must live in California because he was a congressman from California. "I always knew Adam Schiff was a crook. The fraud began with his refinance of his Maryland property in February 6, 2009, and continued through multiple transactions until the Maryland property was correctly designated as a second home on October 13th, 2020. Mortgage fraud is very serious, and crooked Adam Schiff, now a senator, needs to be brought to justice." What type of long-winded, nonsensical, specific, I don't in fact know the mortgage fraud claim that Trump is trying to refer to. I guess the senator has another property close to where he works in Washington. So does every other member of Congress. They have to live here. So I don't know what Donald Trump is freaking out about. But trying to accuse Adam Schiff of white collar crime when that is Donald Trump's entire life is built on white collar crime. One is insane. Two seems nonsensical, and I'm assuming is a lie. And I don't know why Donald Trump has information and is focused on Adam Schiff's mortgage. Seems a little strange. But again, this is just part of a distraction. And I think it's important and okay for us to cover the insane things that Donald Trump says as a distraction if we're pointing out that's what they are. Unless you make that clear, yes, I do think it would be a failure for the media to just give a day of attention to the properties owned by the senator. But no, if you point out, which we are doing right now and everyone should do, that this is just an effort to distract, that Donald Trump will abuse the power of his office to try to shift focus, I just think it's part of this broader narrative. It's important in the context. And the abuses of power continue all throughout Donald Trump's administration, and Rachel Maddow broke that down right here.
This weekend, the Miami Herald managed to get a list of prisoners who are already being held in this Everglades prison camp or who are slated for transfer into it. Of the number of people that they found on this list, the Herald found that a huge proportion of them have no criminal convictions at all or any pending charges in the United States. They keep saying it's the worst of the worst, but these are people with no criminal convictions and no pending charges. As the Everglades immigration prison has sprung up and filled up, elected Democratic lawmakers have been pushing hard too. They've tried to get inside to perform their oversight duties, to see what the conditions inside are like so they can tell the country what's going on there. They're not letting this place become a secret black site. A week and a half ago, it was state-level lawmakers, Florida Democrats. They were turned away at the site, so they filed a lawsuit to be allowed to get in. Before their suit could play out in court, the state ultimately invited those lawmakers in. On Saturday, 5 members of Congress and around 20 state lawmakers, Democrats and Republicans, got what Democrats are calling a sanitized tour of the site. According to Florida Congressman Maxwell Frost, who was among the Democratic members of Congress to tour the facility, these legislators were not allowed to speak directly with any of the prisoners. They were not allowed to see the medical facilities on site. Even so, what they did see sounds difficult to forget.
People are being held in cages. These cages hold 32 people per cage. There are 3 toilets in each cage for the group of 32 people, and their drinking water comes from the toilet. There's a little spigot on top of the toilet, and that's where they drink their water.
It's Congressman Frost joins us now live. Sir, thank you very much for being with us tonight. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Let's talk big picture here for a second. Why is it important to you that you get in there, for you as an elected official to see for yourself the conditions in there and for you to describe them to the public?
Well, number one, it's important because I'm one of the only people that's able to go inside that facility, walk outside of it, and deliver the truth. say exactly what I saw and exactly what's going on. You know, when I went in and we were standing at that door, looking at the cages, looking at the hundreds of men in there, I saw myself in those cages. I saw people who were my age, people who looked exactly like me. And I thought when we were walking out of those doors of the internment camp, I thought, I'm one of the only people that looks like me and that's my age that's going to actually walk out of this place without being deported or without being a staff member that's not allowed to really talk about what's going on in there. That's why it's so important for members of Congress to conduct oversight on these facilities. And we were some of the first people to go in there with a notebook, with a pen. I had pictures. I have a full notebook full of questions that I was looking to get answered, pictures of my constituents, information about their stories. And I'm going to be back. You know, we originally planned this as an unannounced tour. Somehow they found out about it and they ended up inviting us on the same day and time we were going to show up anyway. But we got to be clear. I don't need Ron DeSantis's permission. I don't need anybody's permission to pull up to an immigration detention center and do my job, which is to go in and conduct oversight and tell the public about what's going on.
In terms of this facility, you used the term internment camp, and I saw your colleague, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, use that same phrase. Obviously, that's very evocative language with history in this country that is difficult for a lot of people. Talk about why you think that term is appropriate. I've been struggling with that myself just as a broadcaster in terms of how to talk about these things. I mean, in technical terms, if you've got a facility that's holding people indefinitely and there's no legal process to get in there and there's no legal process to get out, that is traditionally called a concentration camp or an internment camp. And I wonder about your specificity in using that language.
Well, I sure as hell am not going to use what they're calling it. You know, what they're calling it is to make light of the situation. What they're calling it is to make it a giggle or something you can sell merch on. And so I encourage people, don't call it what they're calling it, you know, and everyone's using different language, different names. You know, I'm going with internment or even prison, detention center, because this isn't even a detention center, right? The thing people have to realize too is when an immigrant is being detained, they're being detained because they're going through the legal process of deportation. They have not been convicted of a crime. They're not serving a sentence for a crime. And so they should not be treated in this way. And to be honest, even if you're treated as even if you've been convicted of a crime in this country, you shouldn't be treated this way.
This is a human rights abuse that we are seeing in Florida. It is a disgrace. It serves no purpose. And that's just kind of the point for Donald Trump. It's intimidation above all else. And we got to call that out. We're certainly going to be on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around at the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.